sure you stay until the end. Okay? And we'll try to stick, and if you need extra time, I don't think the debate police are here tonight, so if you need a little extra time, we'll try to be flexible, but our timekeeper, see, raise your hand, this timekeeper. And if you see her doing that, that means you've gone over your time. All right? Now, is Deacon Sims, I know he is also Commissioner Sims, but he is the deacon of this church, and we would ask him to come and welcome us in whatever way you choose.
Good evening. Good evening. On behalf of our pastor, the Reverend James Kendrick, who has served us here at East Friendship so diligently for the past 53 years. And we extend an invitation to you on this coming Sunday as we celebrate his 53rd year. See, this is a phenomenal church. See, we can keep a pastor. So we know that we are a phenomenal church, and we thank you for being part of the East Friendship family now, that you're in here. And so we're going to be looking forward to seeing some of you here at the East Friendship Baptist Church periodically. And we do know that candidates that generally come to East Friendship generally have a better chance of winning. So now, see, something about this place. And see, I'm living proof of that. I've been a commissioner for 22 years. So you do have a better chance of winning. But truly, we are delighted that we can open our doors to the community. This is truly a community church. And we wouldn't have it any other way. The MacNair group has been part of our family as well. So with the NAACP's headquarters is here. The Athens agenda is here. So again, this is a community church, and it's open more than just on Sunday mornings. We feed hungry people on Saturday, 12 to 1. If you got a group that want to volunteer to come out to help serve, or if you want to make a donation to help us continue to feed those who are less fortunate, we would invite you there. So again, welcome. We're glad that you're here tonight, and I'm just looking forward to a very rigorous debate tonight. As I was talking with Jim Thompson from the Mayoral earlier, he says one thing about the forums here at East Friendship, they always provide a little excitement. And we need to get excited about government. And so that's why we're here tonight, and we hope that on the 20th, we'll all go to pool for whoever we want to. I can't tell you who to vote for, but vote for somebody. Well, they say if you don't vote, you don't count. And if you don't count, don't complain. Good evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Sims. And I did want to say just a word about Ray MacNair. Many of you knew Ray, and you knew the passionate commitment he had for the uplift of every segment of this community. And it is a pleasure to be associated with something that is in Ray's memory. He would be pleased that we're carrying on this tradition. You know, my husband said I never need a microphone. But can you hear me okay? Yeah. It's a pleasure to be associated with something that helps us remember Ray and the great spirit he had for this community. And so I want to congratulate the Economic Justice Coalition and with all the members of EJC, Linda Lloyd, and your crew. Would you stand and be acknowledged as the host of this community? There's so much great programming here. Well, now, our candidates for mayor are Nancy Denson, the incumbent, and Tim Denson, the challenger. You all not related, are you?
No relation.
First I looked and said, wow, maybe that's her grandson. What I'd like to do at this point is ask each of you, beginning with Tim Denson, the challenger, if you would give us an opening statement of 2 minutes, tell us who you are, what you're about, why you want to be mayor, and then we'll proceed with Mayor Denson.
Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Ms. Mathis. Thank you for East Friendship here, and thank you for Economic Justice Coalition. Ms. Lloyd, I feel privileged to be able to be here, especially at a forum named after Ray MacNair. I we'll all probably tell these fantastic stories about him. He was such a fantastic man. But I remember meeting him over on the North Quad at UGA during a protest and really learning a lot about him, about the importance of a living wage, about the importance of fighting poverty, about the importance of fighting income inequality. And I don't think it's really a stretch for me to say that I probably wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for him and him kind of raising that bar up and challenging me and so many other people. But the reason I'm running for mayor, though, is there's quite a few reasons. It's over 40,000 reasons, 46,080 reasons is why I'm running for mayor. Because that's the amount of people that we have under the poverty line right here in Athens County. 38% poverty rate, one of the highest in the nation. And that's unacceptable. There are people here struggling to make sure they can have fresh, safe, fresh, and healthy foods on their table because it's cheaper to go and buy a hamburger from McDonald's to feed your kids with. We have families here who are struggling to make sure they have affordable, reliable public transit so they can get to their jobs, take their kids to their daycare, get to those educational opportunities that can help them rise their families up. But those same families, they struggle with childcare, making sure their kids can have quality, safe childcare for them. Because it's just not affordable. They have to make these choices of, am I going to take this job here, this extra job that can really help my family? But I'm not sure if I can because I'm not sure if I have a safe, quality environment for my child to be learning and be kept in. That's not a choice that people should be having to make here in this community. And I'm not going to stand while that choice has to be made here. I grew up in poverty myself. I was the son of 2 pastors down in South Florida. And I remember what it was like coming home and flipping on the lights whenever I got home. And 2 minutes already? Man, flies. I look forward to talking to you guys about a lot more about the tools that we could be using here to fight that poverty, though. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Mayor Dixon.
These things are never quite at the right height for little short ladies like me and Janice. I feel so at home in this church, and Tim, you might as well quit now because Harry said when you come to this church, that's where the winners come from, and I've been visiting this church probably for 30 years, so you're wasting time. But I want to echo a little bit of what Mr. Denson said, is that one of the greatest challenges we have in this community is our high poverty level. In fact, I was at our Daily Bread today for lunch, and spent probably an hour or so over there. And when I go over there, I don't just cruise through and wave at everybody. I actually talk to the people that are there. And I spent quite a lot of time talking to people at our Daily Bread and finding out what their stories are and what their needs are. But those of you here in this room, many of you in the black community, the white community, all ages, know my history. You know I've been working in the vineyards for 45 years. The food banks of Athens Clarke County had their birth in my garage. It was the first storage place for the first food drive. We had to start the food banks. I'm a member of the Whatever It Takes groups. I'm on the board of Whatever It Takes. And we're working on the educational end of the poverty spectrum. Ms. Olumi over there is also on the board and is working on that. And our goal is that by 2020, every child in Athens Clarke County will be on track for a post-secondary education. Because I know that there are 2 ways that we attack poverty. And those 2 ways are by having an educated workforce, people having opportunity for education, and the others, the jobs to go to when they get that education. That's what my emphasis is. Seems like there was one other thing, but I'm looking to see if I'm close to my 2 minutes. But again, I know what one of the things I wanted to ask, and I've asked this and I've got an answer, is that I'll just finish my thought if that's okay. As Janet said, you want me with that script. Is that many of the initiatives that Mr. Benson talks about, like quality child care, affordable bus systems, and all, how do you pay for it? You know, I've been working. I was your tax commissioner for 26 years. I've been your mayor for 3 years. I know that you have to weigh the pros and cons of every issue. You've got to balance the budget. You've got to live within the means you have. And a lot of things are wonderful if we only had the dollars to pay for them.
All right, now what we'll do is we've got some index cards and some plain old pieces of paper, and we're going to pass them out so that you can start thinking of the questions you want to pose to your mayoral candidates. Because we don't want this to be Janice's questions. I'll ask silly questions. You all ask good questions. But while you're doing that, we've got a couple to get you started. I think one question that was raised is, how will you pay for the improvements that you suggest? You talk about fighting poverty. What are the best ways to do that? And how would you pay for the additional services that you think Athens, Clark Countyans need? Tim?
Sure. Thank you. So yes, this question is out there, and we have been addressing this question. Let's say for the first one we'll go into is the public transit system. The public transit system right now only has $800,000 that comes from the fare box. Those fare boxes cost us $100,000 even half per year. And so it's $800,000 we can be making up. The way we can be doing this is the same way they did it in Clemson, South Carolina, the same way they did it in Chapel Hill, the same way they did it in Boone, which what they did is they combined the university system with the county system so that the university funds could go to the county and get federal funds matching. Because the universities can't, just the way it's structured, they can't be getting it. Clemson realized this, they started diverting the funds through the county, and they started to be able to increase the amount of revenue they had towards their transit system, making it completely free. And also they looked at the system, they said, what's the most efficient way we can be running this? They saw the most efficient way is to build bus stops, because bus stops cost money, and they also limit people to where they can get on and off the bus. You go to Clemson, you go on the bus line, you raise your hand, bus stops, you get on, you want to get off, you push the button, it stops and lets you off. We are saving so many $1,000s just not having to keep up on bus stops. There's a lot of ways we can be doing this. And a lot of the other initiatives I have on here too aren't going to be costing us money. The Sexual Assault Prevention Task Force, a way that we could be fighting and preventing sexual assault here before the consequences, we have to deal with the consequences of it actually happening. That would cost us absolutely nothing to put in place. I'm seeing I'm out of time here, but I'd love to talk about this more, and yeah.
And we realize that in this format, we can only hit the highlights, so we got 30 minutes. We'll get back around to it. Mayor Denson, let me ask you a question about your government recently established some goals. And one of those goals was to establish a more efficient criminal justice process. And as a lawyer who practices in Athens courts, sometimes I don't worry about the efficiency, but I worry about the fairness. Is there anything in your goals that would address making sure that Athens Clark County courts are fairly operated so that all citizens get the same level of justice?
Janice, I'll ask that specifically, but I'm not going to take my whole 2 minutes on it.
Okay.
You probably know better than I do as an attorney. We've got some awesome judges here. We've established some accountability courts. We're doing many things to help people re-enter society and become productive citizens. And we're putting in a new computer system where all of our parts of our justice system can communicate with each other. But I would like to go back to the bus system because I don't know that we're going to get to address that later. And my opponent mentioned Clemson, South Carolina. Clemson, South Carolina has more students than it has regular citizens. It's like comparing tigers and dogs. They both have four legs, but they're very different. Clemson and Athens are very different, and there's not a good parallel there. But they're and I would like to address one more thing about the bus system. I want people in this room to know that I listen to you when you have an issue. We just had a contract brought to us by our staff people that was actually a part of it that a number of our citizens got concerned about was the fact that we were asking the university not to make their stops along the way and let everybody get on the bus on Prince Avenue at no cost instead of being a straight bus from one to the other. I can't remember. But and that was done through that part was put in there because of an issue that was raised by two of our commissioners in a work session, which was Mr. Neesmith and Mr. Gertz, both concerned about the fact that we were losing money to the bus system from that, and it turns out to be between $30,000 and $40,000 a year that costs us this year and will next year. So our staff, as a result of that, negotiated in the contract with the university that they would no longer have that service where they stop and pick up anyone who wants to get on the bus. Well, I met with our staff people earlier this morning, and then a couple of other commissioners came in, and we're going to have a commission-defined option that's going to take that out of that document, because we're also going to have a comprehensive analysis of our bus system this year. We thought that it was a better thing to do to absorb that loss this year until we've had time to study the bus system in a more comprehensive way. The university's going to participate with us in that study.
Question for Mr.
I can reference your question, Mr. Ross?
The question that I posed to Nancy? Sure. I got one for you though, too.
Okay, please. Looking forward to it. Something that I'd like to address that I have talked to a lot of people about, though, when it comes to our legal system here and the fairness of its execution, is one particular issue, and it's on our platform, is the deprioritization of marijuana. And I've been talking to a lot of individuals about how this can be done, how other communities have already done this, and it's something I definitely want to look into, specifically because of that fairness problem there. Nationally, people of color are arrested 4 times more than Caucasians are for marijuana possession. 4 times. That shows right there that fairness is not happening here, and that something needs to be addressed.
And the rate of usage is just about the same. But now your question, you got to answer the question. Just stand up.
All right.
Hey, I want to sit down the whole time.
You talk about a 38% poverty rate and 46,000 people living under the poverty line. And there have been a lot of initiatives in Athens to try to address and tackle this issue. What would you do to build the community's consensus? First, to acknowledge that there is an issue with poverty, and then addressing it, because the way out of poverty is not necessarily bus and housing and daycare. Way out of poverty is a job. And you know, in Athens, you're going to have to balance the sustainability question with the growth question, and that's going to be your, that's going to be your hardest task if you make it. How would you respond to that?
Well, first and foremost, I think I know the consensus is there. We already have 38% of people are under the poverty line themselves.
But there are people in town who will tell you that's just students and part-timers and faculty wives who don't want to work full-time, and it's not a real picture of Athens, and you just need to go on and put all that liberal stuff to the side.
Yeah, and then the other percentage there comes to the people that I've actually been going to their doors talking to. Me and my staff, when we came up with this platform that we have, this ambitious platform, we did that by visiting with people. We did over 300 surveys and interviews all across our community. We did everything from Winterville to the west side, Timothy Road. We did the east side over where I live. We did 5 points where they called them. We made sure we went to all those places. We knocked on their doors and we said, what is important to you? What are the problems that you see? And how can we be solving those problems? So that platform, these issues were brought up with, I think, about as good as my campaign could have done to get a consensus there. And it's there. And it's true, we're not going to solve poverty by having affordable buses. It'll help, but it's not going to solve the problem. Another big way we need to do it is simply with empowerment. We need to make sure that these people in our communities are feeling empowered, and they feel like they're being listened to, and they feel like they're a part of it. And a lot of times, like the way we're running our campaign, by reaching out to these people, that's one of the ways we want to do it. So one way we can be doing this is making sure our government is accessible and transparent, and those people can actually interact with that government. I want to make sure that I'm going out to every single district, meeting with these people every single year, not expecting them to come to me, but going to them, listening to them, getting their feedback, not just telling them what to do, but figuring out what they think needs to be done, and working together to solve those problems. And yes, true, also, we need to make sure that we have jobs available to these people. And we need to make sure that those jobs are diverse, and that our economy is diverse. So we could be having, we can have factory jobs like from Caterpillar. We need to have those. We also need to be focusing on high-tech jobs too, so those graduate students who are working right now, service jobs, they can move up into the jobs that they were trained to do, opening up those jobs for other people who don't have that same training. I also want to be focusing on cooperatives too, which is a way that a lot of people who don't have the money and the capital will be coming together, banding together, and working together to form their own jobs and businesses and getting that empowerment.
Okay, Mayor Denson. I guess I should say Ms. Denson. I don't want to prejudice the audience by referring to you as the mayor, although everybody knows you're the mayor. There are 2 questions here for you. I'm going to audience questions now. Mayor Denson, why have you changed your mind about scheduling a vote to allow the trial for a road diet on Prince Avenue?
Well, that's making an assumption that's not true, because I've not changed my mind. I had one of our commissioners and a private citizen bring a drawing to me for excuse me, of a layout. I was going to ask, could somebody get me some water? I came in here without any, so it'd be nice. The pollen's getting to me. Hair is getting punchy. With a drawing of a layout that would essentially make Prince Avenue temporarily into a 3-lane road, and it's been referred to a lot as a complete streets program or complete streets demonstration. Actually, it would not be a complete streets demonstration because it does not include bike lanes, which are a very big part of the mix. Prince Avenue is very much on my mind. It's something that I intend to address. I don't know what to change my mind in, but I will put on the agenda once we've had our June 10th work session, which is going to address a lot of. Thank you, Leah. It's going to address a lot of issues on Prince Avenue. If you notice that right now there are traffic counters on Prince Avenue and some of the parallel streets with Prince Avenue, because we haven't had a traffic count in that area for over 6 years. So how do you know what success is going to be until you know what happens before and after? So we're getting before traffic counts now. If we're going to do a demonstration project, it needs to be done at a time of year when the traffic is at its maximum, not when it's going into the slowest part of the year. But what I've asked staff to do is bring us a lot of information. Part of it is lighting systems that might be more efficient than those lighting systems that are on each side of the street that people are ignoring. I've asked our police department to step up enforcement of the people that are ignoring the crosswalks on Prince Avenue. Both our university police and our county police are going to be citing people over there. There are any number of traffic calming things that we can do in the short run, but even if it turned out that 3-lane was the right answer for Prince Avenue, we don't 3-lane until we repave roads, and that's 4 or 5 years down the way. So I couldn't see where a month, one way or the other, made any difference in when that was put on the agenda.
Now, Mr. Denson had 2 questions in a row, and to even things up, Ms. Denson, we're going to ask you another question now, and it's related to your answer. It says, why has Clark County stopped funding sidewalks and bike lanes?
We haven't. It's just like everything else. There are finite amounts of money, and we are constantly funding bike lanes and sidewalks. We just recently had an agenda item where we had the list of new sidewalks that would be prioritized for this next upcoming budget year. So we're still doing bike lanes and sidewalks.
Mr. Denson, a question for you. What 3 skill sets do you have that we should consider when voting for you?
First and foremost, I'm good at working with people. And I like looking forward to it. That's why my whole campaign and the way I would run the mayorship is reaching out to people, working with them, finding out what the needs of the citizens here, the residents of Athens Clark County are, and making sure that we're addressing them together. I wouldn't want to be working, just laying down rules down from top. I want to make sure we're working together across the board so that, I think the residents here, they know what the problems are. The people in their neighborhoods, they know what problems are in their neighborhoods. They know when crime is happening. They know, whenever people are struggling. They know whenever the transit system is inadequate and where it is. I want to work with those people because they're going to know more about their communities than I will. And if I feel like I can bring in that information, that's one of the best ways I've been doing it. And that plays in also, I also just come from a working class background. I think I can bring that to the table and make sure that I know the experiences and know the kind of thoughts that people here in Athens have. I think it's about time that we have a person, just other people, working with the people and leading them into having an Athens for everyone, leading them to a 21st vision for this neighborhood, this community, and this county. And that's another big thing I want to be doing here. And how many was it? 3?
3.
Let's see. It's the 3rd one also. Let's see. Well, I also can relate very well to the different ideas. I'm a cyclist. We come to the bike lanes, the sidewalks, those kind of things. I feel like we need to make a priority for those things. We need to be looking forward. We need to make sure that we're making decisions not just for tomorrow, not just for next year. We We need to be making decisions for 10, 25, 30, 40, 50 years from now. I want to make sure that Athens is a community that I want my children to live in and to raise their children in. I want to make sure it's strong and... Okay.
Question for Ms. Denson. Are you opposed to raising taxes on the rich, in particular private property owners?
I'm opposed to raising taxes on anybody. No, I'm just teasing. In fact, when I ran for office the first time, it may have been you, Janice, but I remember somebody, you may remember this statement, saying that it was very brave that I said I would never commit to never raising taxes, because there are times that it's the right thing to do. But it's something that you have to do judiciously and carefully, because if you just raise taxes to try to take care of every need that you perceive to be in the community, what will happen is you'll make your community where it's not competitive. You won't get those investments in the community that create the jobs, that raise the tax digest for everybody. But I would like to, since my 2 minutes isn't up, I think I answered that question. I would like to say that one of the most valuable things for Nancy Denson, as your mayor and as an elected official, is that I've lived on both sides of the tracks. I was raised very poor. I was one of 7 children. I doubt, we never had our electricity cut off. But my mother made most of our clothes. We grew a garden. She canned. We grew chickens. We raised most of our own food. But I'm the American dream. I'm the person that started from those very humble beginnings, and now I live a very comfortable lifestyle. And I hope that I'm the inspiration to young people to say that yes, we can. We still can do it in America. And I will continue to work to make Athens an Athens for all people. I've been doing that for 35 years.
All right, Mr. Denson, question for you. The charter requires an auditor to assure that the mayor and commission have a way to monitor staff. Will you immediately hire an auditor if you're elected?
It'll be an extremely high priority, and I would make sure that the mayor and commission were immediately working on that. It is a required position for our charter, and the fact that it's been vacant now for, I believe, almost a year. It's been vacant for almost a full year. More than 25% of my opponent's term has lacked this integral role to audit and make sure that our government is working the best it can, to make sure the systems of our government work as best it can. How can we say that our government is running the possibly best it can be when we don't even have that position who makes sure it's supposed to do that isn't even there? How is that not a priority? So yes, it definitely will be.
All right, this question is for both candidates, and we'll give you both an opportunity to respond, starting with Ms. Denson. Do our zoning laws favor student housing over community housing? And if so, what, if anything, would you do to address that?
Who did you ask to do it first, John? Did you ask me?
Yes, ma'am.
The zoning laws that are in place now were a part of a very extensive, comprehensive plan that was developed with community input, and it was developed prior to my coming into office. And what our zoning in Athens does is it encourages light development, a green belt around the circumference of our county, and pushes the density into the core of the community. This is what the commissioners at the time thought they were hearing from our community, that they wanted a green belt with more intense development close in. And of course, the more intense the development is, the easier it is to provide services, water, sewer, bus service, all those things where you have a dense development. But then when we started getting that dense development in our core, all of a sudden people said, oh, we're messing up our wonderful downtown. And so sure, we may need to do some tweaking of the zoning laws. And we have zoning requests that come to us on a regular basis. But my understanding still is that the zoning laws we have are the zoning laws that the citizens said they wanted at the time they were put in place.
Yes.
I think those zoning laws maybe were the zoning laws that people wanted when they were put in place, but they're not the zoning laws that people want here now. And they're not the zoning laws that we need here in Athens County now. Right now, all of us who go downtown, we see the mounds of student housing that's coming up, and it's a lot. It's a whole lot. And it's true, we need to be working towards dense populations downtown. That is integral. It's integral to make sure that we have a walkable, bikeable community, a community that can rely on public transit, which is what the future community of Athens is going to be. Younger generations are not going out and getting a driver's license. They use public transit, they walk, they cycle, and we need to make sure that we are building up that dense populations here. But we also need to make sure we're doing it right. We need to make sure that these buildings are being built in a way that's strong for our environment, that these buildings are going to be here for a long period of time. I don't want to see apartment buildings being built up that are only maybe really be there for about 10 years and they're just going to kind of fall into disrepair. We need to make sure that these kind of buildings are as beautiful and long-standing as the wonderful buildings we have on Clayton Street right now that we love and look at every time we're downtown. We need to make sure that our zoning laws are updated. We're on a big cusp of change here in our community when it comes to development, when it comes to growth, and we need to make sure that our downtown area the zoning is built right for that so that we don't lose the precious gem that we have of a downtown right now. I want to make sure that these, we can be following a third-party certification such as LEEDs or ASHRAE to make sure these buildings are built in a safe, strong manner that's good for the environment. There's a lot of things we can be doing, and we need to make sure it's a priority, that we revisit these zoning laws, and that we're building kind of communities that people didn't want, say, 15 years ago. Making sure we're building the buildings that people want here now and in the future.
All right, thank you. Well, we've exhausted, believe it or not, our 30 minutes already. And what we want to do is give you a couple of minutes to sum up and address any issues that were not raised in the questions. I do have a couple more questions. I'll just read them quickly, and if you want to address them in your closing remarks, you may do so. Why were zoning concerns addressed after Selig decided to withdraw their development plan? Have any of the new employers who have come to the Athens area in the past several years changed our poverty rate? If so, how? If not, why not? What ways will you work to encourage job growth, specifically in the high-tech and film industries in Athens? What are the plans to prevent the University of Georgia from taking over more property in Athens, Clark County? Why have you allowed the auditor position, this is from Ms. Denson, to remain vacant for a year? So those are the questions that are outstanding. You've got 2 minutes, go for it. Starting with Ms. Denson.
Okay, I'll answer the auditor one first because that's probably the simplest one. And my fellow commissioners who are here and those who served with me know why that position stayed open. We tried to find a time that we could meet together. We actually had a retreat, and the director of our retreat said that question should be saved for another time, that it would dominate the whole retreat. But what we want to do is we want to talk about what that position does, because it's never had any definition to it. But I'll tell you, Mr. Denson, you'll never have a chance to fill that job because it will be filled by July 1st, whether or not you win the election. But the auditor's job is a very important job, and there was even some discussion among commissioners about whether or not that job needed to exist anymore now that we are in an established government. I think it's an important job. I won't have the right person in it. I've been looking for that person, and we'll be having something presented to the commissioners that they'll have some input in before that decision is made before July 1st. I can't remember what the other questions were, but I will just sum up very quickly because you want a summation. Is that I've been, as I said, working for this community for, I'm in my 35th year of elected government. I think the best indicator of future performance is past performance. Most of you in this room know me and know me well. You know how I care about this community. You know how hard I work. You know what to expect. So I will leave that there. But I would like to say about my opponent's platform, which I've read through any number of times, actually falls into 3 categories to me. One is there things that are already being done. They're listed in there as things as if they didn't exist. One, for instance, is a living wage for all county employees. That we have one employee that I think the wage is $11.80 or something like that an hour. This is an example, and Mr. Denson defined a living wage in one of our earlier debates as $10.50 an hour with benefits. All of our employees have full benefits, so that already exists. but they fall into things that already exist, or that things are financially unfeasible, or things that that don't fall into the purview of city and county government. And I would appreciate your vote on May the 20th.
Mr. Jensen, you have 2 minutes to sum up.
Well, I hope when that county auditor is hired on July 1st, doesn't ride the bus, because that's the same day that the latest fare increase goes into effect. So. But I'm glad to hear that that's position being filled, but once again, we should not be waiting, we should not be dragging our feet. I've seen the last few years, that's what's kind of been the biggest examples of what our mayor's been doing here. It's been dragging the feet, things not happening, a lack of action. I've heard some people use the word obstructionist even at times. I mean, we need to make sure that we are moving towards action. Make sure we're looking for solutions with a bias towards action. Looking for things that we can be putting into place that are going to take effect, that are going to move us forward. And that's what I want to do. I want to bring that kind of energy, that kind of passion, that kind of ability to work with each other, work with our community, to put these kind of changes into effect. I want to try to go through a little few of these questions here really quick. When it comes to talked about some of the jobs moving here, our poverty rate's actually been going up. It's been increasing. We haven't been getting these jobs here, but it's been increasing. We need to make sure that we're doing more. My idea for economic development here is three-part. One part does include trying to bring in out-of-town, out-of-state businesses here, such as Caterpillar. But we can't be relying on companies from a different state, from Indiana, driving our economy in Athens, Georgia. We also need to make sure we're fostering local businesses here, especially tech startup businesses, which I know was mentioned in that question. That is something that I've met with the director of For Athens. Me and Jim talked, and he said that we need to make sure a lot of investors aren't coming in here to Athens because they don't see that local investment happening here by our local government first and foremost. That's what they look for before they decide to put their own money in our community. So we need to make sure that we're stepping up and we're having part of our economic development, having a part of our $500,000 budget for economic development center going into that. So, I mean, the real reason though I want to have us working together, I want to be your mayor, is so we can make that Athens for everyone I mentioned. Because in Athens for everyone, we have affordable transit. We have childcare that's available for everyone, no matter how much income they have. We are listening to the input of our residents and welcoming and actually going after that input. And we have an Athens that's safe and welcome for every single person here, no matter what their race is, no matter what their sex is, no matter what their income bracket is, no matter what their documentation status is. This community should be waving a flag that says, we are safe, we are welcome, and we should be moving towards prosperity, sustainability, and equality. And that's the three things I want to bring here to Athens, Georgia. Thank you so much.
Let's thank all of our candidates. We're very fortunate to have candidates who are qualified and committed and passionate about serving us in these roles. Now, next what we're going to do is hear from a couple of our candidates who are, they're not unopposed, but they're here without their opposition, beginning with Keith Earth. And while he comes and greets us for a couple of minutes,